Welcome, you have reached Imperial Reviews, and today's movie review will be Don't Move on Netflix original. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, let's get into it. So there's only two members of this cast, and that's Kelsey Asbill plays as Iris, and Finn Whitrock plays as Richard. Let's get into it. So it's other people played, but never mind. It was like a character named Bill, and then there was the cop character. So this movie starts off with Iris up at a cliff, and you see she's mourning the death of someone, and then out of nowhere pops up this man. He just invades her whole space, just starts to spark conversation, and she's really not trying to hear it, but she's at the edge of the cliff, so it looks like she wants to take her life. And he talks her down from taking her life. He starts talking about his own story with his child. Pretty much what happened is her and her husband was out hiking, and they were looking for sticks to like start the campfire or whatever they was trying to do, and they lost track of the kid, and the kid ended up veering off and going off the cliff. So the son died. Iris has always held that against her, that she took her mind off her kid, and so she wanted finish her life. She didn't want to be here no more. Richard talked her down. So after Richard pretty much said, do what you want to do, I'm not here to stop you. But he kind of talked her off, and when Richard started walking back to his car, he heard a noise, and it was Iris coming down off the cliff as well. So when they got out, both of their cars was parked next to each other. But the way Richard parked, he kind of parked where Iris couldn't really get out. And so they was making small talk. Then all of a sudden, the games began, and Richard had some words with her, and he starts acting weird, and he stunned her with the stun gun, shocked her, passed her out. She woke up in the back seat while Richard was driving, and she instantly start feeling or whatever. So she tried to call on her iPhone, but where they were at, she didn't get no reception. Well, her Apple Watch or whatever type watch she had, and she didn't have no reception. So she pretty much trying to talk to him and say, like, what are you doing or whatever, and he pretty much was like, telling her what he was going to do to her. And so she's trying to make small talk, but she had like a little pocket knife in her pocket, and she started cutting her arms free out of the wire tie. So she jumped up, pretty much forced Richard to crash. And when she forced him to crash, it pretty much knocked him out in a sense. But not before he told her that, well, he didn't tell her that yet. After they crashed and he got out the car, so he was kind of bruised up, and then she pretty much loosened with the knife, the wire ties that was on around her ankles. And so she was still kind of banged up, so she didn't run over and try to stab him up or try to finish him off or whatever. So when he got up, he came to, she pulled a knife on him. He was like, oh, this is perfect setting. And every perfect setting, perfect opportunity. So he let her know that he gave her a paralytic agent in her body that is basically takes 20 minutes, and her body starts shutting down. And when it officially shuts down, she even lose her voice, and she won't be able to do anything. But the agent will start to, she'll start getting her faculties back in her body. It only lasts for an hour, then she'll start getting her stuff back. So he pretty much, it's a game to him. So he's sick and sadistic. So it's a game to him. She start running off in the woods. But he pretty much does the Jason. He doesn't run after her. He pretty much walks. while she's running. But as she start running, it's the effects start happening or whatever. It start happening. So as each effect is starting to happen, she hid away from him, but then she hid in the area where it was like fire ants, and they was crawling on her and they start biting her, and uh, she made a noise, and then that let her know where she was at. But by this time, she was losing. She lost her legs, so now all she could do is crawl. So she crawled her way and just dumped herself in the river and just turned over so she could float down the river. So he couldn't get her. He like, pretty much, you going to drown. So she only had like one part of her arm left. And by this time, she floated down the river. Eventually, she floated to a bank somewhere to the side and used one part of her arm to pour herself out of the water. So by this time, she was able to crawl a little bit before she fully lost everything. And at this time, when she lost everything, she lost her voice. And so she's still deeper in the woods where he didn't know where she was at the time. And she ended up on Bill's property. So Bill's about to cut grass and then see her, comes talk to her, are you okay? And so now she can hear everything like you and I, but she can't, all she could do is like move her eyes, and she can't move her body or nothing. So Bill sees her, and basically he knows something wrong with her. So he picked up his wheelbarrow and pulled her in his house. So I would think that like a universal sign, like when he was asking the question, so she was like blinking and let him know like if that's a yes, or blink if it was a no. But blinking flat, like, I think that's a universal sign. My thoughts that she blinked heavy, that means, or maybe she didn't have the mobility to blink heavy, but that means she's in trouble. She's in danger. So Bill pretty much wheels her in, and right after he wheels her in, he said, I'm going to call 911. Now, this the part that kind of peed me off, whatever. So it's a movie, so they gotta, they make it dumb. It just could be better writing. So Richard shows up, pretty much tells Bill he listened to he missing his wife. So he's like, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her by, and Richard's like, man, I had a car accident. I'm looking at my wife. I need help. He acting like he distraught and everything like that. So Bill was like, okay, I get some help. Now he closed the door, but he didn't lock the door. He just closed it. I'm like, nah. And you out in the wilderness, so you're supposed to have a gun already with the shotgun. Most movies, I guess they just made this like tailor-made. This man is out in the woods by himself, living by himself with no dog. Like, no, he ain't got the shotgun because he knows crazies that could come along the way. So nevertheless, Bill is in, but he hid because when the knock came at the door, by this time, the agent was wearing off a little bit off of Iris. So she was kind of like frantic, saying, giving Bill a warning, like, don't trust him, or, concerned. So he put her in a cupboard somewhere in his living room where no one can see her. So he's talking to Richard. He walks off. When he turns around, when Bill walks off after he closed the door, Richard is in his house. And he's like, oh man, I'm just delirious, whatever. Nah, dog, he just came in your house. Like, you really supposed to get distracted. Now he's too trusting. So Richard goes and sits down and acts like, oh man, my wife, she was drunk. She hasn't taken it well since the death of our child. And I'm a loser. They're going to put her away. And Bill was pretty much saying, I'm going to call the cops. You'd have thought that just for movie purposes, they didn't have Bill call the cops, and yeah, yeah. So, uh, after, so you have Bill and Richard having a conversation, and Richard starts to tell his story that he had issues with his wife. He had anger management issues, and that's why he lost his wife. So, Richard said he lost his phone at the car accident or whatever, and the phone rang while he was in the car. When it rang, Bill pretty much said, "I thought you left the car, left your phone." He's like, "Oh, I must have forgot, whatever." Like, "Oh, I said that. Oh, I must have forgot." So that gave Bill pretty much more concern, and so he was like, "Listen," and so Richard at this point was like, "Hey, let's stop playing games." And basically, he was confronting Bill like, "Yo, like, I'm going to hurt you. Where's my wife?" And Bill was like, "Hey, man, I didn't want no issues. I want both of y'all just to leave." And so Richard was like, "There's a wheelbarrow, so you bring wheelbarrows in your house." And he was like, "Well, I put her out in the cupboard, and I just brought the wheelbarrow back. And you go get her out there." He's like, "Oh, really?" So, nevertheless, they get to tussling now. Of course, Bill got anger management, so it showed Bill with hands. So Bill started whooping on Richard, tossing him around the house, beating him up. But, of course, Bill didn't go get the gun after he beat up Richard. He went close enough for Richard to talk smack. Richard grabbed the knife, stabbed Bill in the leg. Then after that, wounded him. He started tussling with Bill again, and Richard just stabbed him up, pretty much killing Bill. So that kind of pissed you off. By this time, though, he still can't, meaning Richard can't see where Iris is. So he sets Bill's house on fire and takes Bill's pickup truck. And he kept looking in the house like, "Well, where's she at?" And he just looked. She's somewhere in that house. And then while he's setting the house on fire, he called the fire saying, "Hey, me and my wife just got in an accident," and yada, yada, yada. So he did call the authorities or whatever. And so he went back in the house while the house was being burned, and underneath the cover, he grabbed Iris, pulled her out, put her in Bill's truck, and they drove off. And so her voice started to come back, and she started to talk. Well, no, her voice didn't come back yet. Not yet. Nah, her voice didn't come back yet. And he started talking. While he was driving, he got a call from his daughter, and the daughter that he originally said had passed away. So he got a whole family, wife and kid, and they don't know he's doing this sick stuff. And the daughter pretty much said they're coming up to the cabin, the mom. So that throws a monkey wrench in his plans. So now he got a beeline to go get the car. So when he shows up where the car is, he's going to pull the car out. And so the cop shows up. So the cop it's kind of suspicious, but not as suspicious as he should be. And he pretty much said that the wife was drinking, and while the wife was drinking, she crashed, and he's just cleaning up her mess. And so while he was cleaning up her mess, the cop got suspicious. He ended up killing the cop, and pretty much saying, "You see what I did?" He hold Iris responsible for him killing the cop. So now he's real deep. And so by this time, Iris faculties on her body start coming back, and so she had bursts where she got energy to use her mobility, and then it'll flash out. So she thought she stabbed him with the tranquilizer, paralytic agent, but she didn't have the strength to press it down and push it in. So eventually he takes her out to the water, and like I said, part of her faculties was coming back. So eventually, she had birth, so she had a knife, and she took the knife, stab Richard in the neck to his jaw. And so he grabbed the gun and tried to shoot her, but he couldn't shoot her. But he shot holes into the boat, and he fell over in the water. And now her hands start coming back, and so then she grabbed the gun, and when he came, jumped back on the boat, she shot him. So at this point, he started kind of drowning, and now the boat started sinking. But by this time, more of her body faculties start coming back. The boat finally sank, and she thought she was dead. She went underneath the water. Then all her limbs came back, I guess, with the water trickled in the body, and her limbs came back. So she ended up on the pier, and was able to pull herself up on the pier. She was sitting there, and it kind of gave her a revitalized, a new look on life. Her life is precious, even though she lost her son. But in the distance, she heard coughing, and it was Richard. He managed, even though he went in the water, he managed to get himself off to the side of the lake, but he was bleeding out, and so she sat over top of him and pretty much said, "Thank you for what you did to me. This revitalized my life in a sense." But he was bleeding out, coughing up blood and stuff. Now, could she have made sure that he died? Yes, but she didn't. She just left off, and that's how it ended. So it could be open-ended, because if it's enough viewership, they can make it so right after she left, somebody stumbled upon him and saved him, and he lived. So, but the storyline was okay, but kind of dumb at the same time. It had potential, but they could have made it the writing a little bit more better. So overall, out of my 4-star rating system, I give it. It's not a must watch, or not even a revisit watch, but it just could be better. It's just a watch. So 1.5 out of 4 stars. It wasn't too much to it. I could see somebody going as high as 2 out of 4 stars, but other than that, it didn't do it. It didn't really do it for me. It had potential, but then it just, I didn't like the whole Bill scene. That could have been written better. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Till next time.